Welcome everybody to another edition of Latto Talk, where we discuss all things related to neo-racial people. I'm El Mulaton, and tonight we're going to be discussing racial imperialism. We're going to talk about all of that. You can find this live every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on TikTok. Go ahead and follow me on YouTube as well at Papa Mulaton. That is my long-form content channel. I'm also on Instagram at Papa Mulaton, same thing. By the way, I also have a Substack. I think it's the same handle as my TikTok, at Mongrel Uprising. So my Substack is basically going to be more formal writings about the Latto identity and everything. You know, it's kind of, it's supposed to be a little bit more professional, yeah? And we kind of need stuff like that. You know, shout out to Renata Mulata. She recently came back. She, for the longest time, I believe, was making content, and I know she had a pretty well-developed Substack. And I think I don't know if she deactivated it or something, but it's not there anymore. And she had a lot of good content. She even had a manifesto up there. I didn't get to finish reading it. But, we need more stuff like that. We need a diversity of content, really. Videos, images, memes, music, artwork, paintings, writings. We need all kinds of stuff like that. Be able to spread the word as much as possible. Yeah. We're not really going to get like institutional backing at this current stage. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, so the topic today is racial imperialism. What is this? So this is a term, I'm not sure if I came up with it, okay? I haven't seen anybody else use this term. It's entirely possible that someone else has already come up with this term. I couldn't find it. It's not exactly like it's a difficult concept or a difficult combination of words to combine together, but I am using it and I have my own definition of it. If you already know the definition of imperialism and race, you can already kind of put two and two together. It's pretty much intuitive, but there is some nuance to it. So I'll give you my formal definition and then I'll give a longer explanation of racial imperialism. It's defined as the extension of a race's authority, especially by imposing its racial identity onto other races, or by the establishment of social or political dominance over other races. Okay? Let me read that one more time, just in case. The extension of a race's authority, especially by imposing its racial identity onto other races, or by the establishment of social or political dominance over other races. Let me read the chat real quick, make sure we're doing good. Living Soul says, is the panel only for Lattos? No, at this point, I don't have the panel open yet. I will have the panel open later for us to discuss all these different things, but it's open for everybody, yeah? Latto Priest says, it's very accurate for what's going on. Yep. Matt says, Germany in the 30s. Let's see. Okay, that looks like about it. All the chats. So what are some modern day examples of racial imperialism? If you know anything about Lattos or neo-racial people in general, I think you can tell where I'm going with this, yeah? So racial imperialism is most commonly practiced today by Paleoracial people against Neoracial people. So let me explain these terms. So Paleoracial and Neoracial are also terms that I came up with, and they are meant to replace the dynamic of mixed race versus monoracial. Okay, I went into a long explanation of this on my YouTube channel. Let me put that up on my YouTube channel, Papa Mulaton. Actually, I think the video's on my other YouTube channel. I have another YouTube channel called Mongrel Uprising. You might go check it there. Also on my TikTok, I have a few short videos that are an explanation of these terms. But I don't like the terms mixed race and monoracial because they don't actually seem to reflect what they intend to represent. Yeah. So when we think of the term mixed race, every single human being on the planet is mixed race. Okay, it's just a fact. There's no such thing as like a pure race, depending on how you define pure. Meaning, if you mean pure as in with no admixture ever in the history of its lifetime, that is not a thing. That is not a thing at all. So if all humans are mixed race, what the hell are we doing with these terms, mixed race and monoracial? Okay, we need to update these terms so that they actually reflect what we actually mean. And what that is new versus old. There's a new dynamic, okay? The old dynamic was mixed versus non-mixed, but if we change that dynamic and say new versus old, there are old races, okay? Races that have existed for thousands upon thousands of years, and then there are newer races that have only existed for half a millennia or something like that. In our case, we are Lattos. I'm Latto, and so our race only really began to exist, roughly around the 15th century. Maybe you could say a little bit earlier. So we're a new race. We didn't exist, before the Common Era. Okay, so when you look at it in that manner, there are old races and there are new races. Well, what do you call those? The older races, you would call them Paleoracial, and the newer races, you would call them Neoracial. Yeah? So that's what I mean. So I'll restate what I said. I said racial imperialism is most commonly practiced today by Paleoracial people against Neoracial people. So it's the older races trying to impose their identity onto the newer races. Okay, it's the older races trying to dominate the newer races. Okay, let me read the chat real quick to make sure we're all good. Latto Priest says even Anglos are descended from several different tribes. Yeah, exactly. And they'll try to say, well, all those tribes were YT. Well, how do you freaking know that? And a lot of these tribes, they existed long before the genes for light colored skin. So, yeah. Courage and Honor says, how do you define imperialism in respective race without punctuation inherent? Still know it. What was that? I don't know what you mean. Okay. Jorge says, you black. Well, okay, he wasn't directing it at me. He was directing it at Latto Priest. Yes, Latto Priest, you black. Okay. Okay, so moving on, to make this relevant to Lattos, the most obvious example is BLK Americans imposing their identity onto us. They try to dominate us, okay? And they have several different tactics that they use. Okay, most of us, we know what they are. But it all amounts to racial imperialism, trying to obtain power. Yeah. And so what are some of these tactics? One of them, obviously, the one drop rule. Okay. The idea that if you have one drop of African ancestry, then you're BLK. Okay. And I think it's obvious that was entirely based on supremacy, YT supremacy. So why they would implement that? Well, we know why, because it serves their interest now. Promoting YT supremacy serves their interest, and so they're gonna do it, Okay, we've got 13 people in here, only 15 likes. Let's tap the screen and get the likes up. Let's tap that screen. Let's get it up. Okay, can we get to triple digits? Let's get up to triple digits. Tap that screen. Jorge, thank you for sharing the live. Latto Priest, be careful, you're gonna make them angry. I mean, that's not the intention, but so be it, if it is. Courage and Honor says, I agree, even the Anglo without Nordic, just Sax, mixed to now submit thereafter. Living Soul, some Lattos project their ideas onto others too. Well, there's a difference between projecting ideas and projecting your race over others and trying to dominate others. I'm not aware of any cases of Lattos saying, hey, I'm gonna force you to identify as Latto and I want to subjugate you and what? Like, I don't know about that. I've not come across that. Courage and Honor, lol, I have 1% BLK, but Anglo. Okay. Jorge says, Massa will send you to the gulags. Jay, what part of DR are you from? I don't know who you're talking to. If you're talking to me, I'm not from the DR. And Latto Priest says it's psychological warfare. Okay, we're at 346. Awesome. Keep the likes going. Let's keep the likes going. Let me continue on. The next part is the next tactic that they use is policing our dating choices and essentially pressuring us to date only BLK. Yeah, only BLK people. If you're a Lotta, then they want you to only date BLK men. Vice versa, if you're a Latto, they want you to only date honestly, I'm not sure if they even care who we date, just as long as it's not Lattas. But it's probably, for some, they want you to date BLK women. Yeah. And so what this essentially reveals is that they want to incorporate our genes into theirs. They want to merge gene pools, okay? They don't like YT, but they sure do want those genes. And if you think about it, this is essentially mejorar la raza, okay? For those of you who don't know Spanish or don't know that concept, mejorar la raza essentially means to improve the race, yeah? And it's this concept, I haven't dug too deep into it, so I only have a superficial understanding of it. But basically, it's this concept that you need to improve the race, like I guess in this context, it would be the human race, by mixing with YT. Basically only dating YT, always dating someone lighter than you, someone who has more European ancestry, because that's apparently the goal for these types of people. And that's essentially what BLK Americans are doing. They're practicing mejorar la raza because they, at least the men, they only want to, I shouldn't say they only, but their top pick, their number one draft pick is always the mulata. Yeah? Always. Or a fat white woman. One of the two. And so how can that not be mejorar la raza? Why don't you want to be with your own women, you know? Let's look at the chat. Knowledge the sage, yes, blanqueamiento, yeah. Where else? Where was I? Jay says, oh, I thought you were Dominican. Gerard says, ¿quién? Yeah, Gerard, he's Dominicano. We just have to keep mixing. Oh, no. Latto Priest says, yep, they want to force us to date the darkest person in the room. They want to absorb us. Jay says, I'm from Mocha. Jorge says they love YT people. That they do. I can't read that name. Crawl Enlighten, thank you for the follow. Gerard, also when they call red bones are the most of the times BLK people with a big European descent. Yeah, definitely. And it's so funny, like these, I recently saw these videos of Latinos getting DNA tests. And these were Latinos with African ancestry, okay? I don't call them Afro-Latinos. I hate that word. I despise it. It's basically the one drop rule. But these were Latinos that were Neoracial, but mixed with African ancestry, and they got these DNA tests, and then they saw that they had European, and they're like, what? Pero qué? What is that? And it's like, how, bro? Look at yourself in the freaking mirror. How are you surprised that you had European ancestry? Some of them were like, oh, I thought it would be single digits. Like, no, like, so many people, I don't know. They have no like real concept of race and things like that. Oh man. Okay, so Sab says you need to look YT lol. Jorge says, but isn't that going backwards if you're mixing with Anglos? I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Let's see. Knowledge the Sage, thank you for the follow. Jorge says red bones tend to be grifts. See, I don't know about that, Jorge. Everybody keeps saying that, but I've been called red bone in my life before, and I ain't a freaking griff. Yeah. Jay says, not for real. They be acting surprised. Yeah. Oh man, there's this video I want to break down. I have it in my like list of videos to like react to, and it's basically this mulata from Spain. She's from España, and I think she may have been born and raised there. And there's literally a part at the end of the video where she says, I know I'm a mulata, but don't call me a mulata. She wants to just be identified as BLK. And it's, oh man, it's just so cringe. And it's like she's just trying so hard. Let's see. Latto Priest says there's very few paleoracial BLKs in Spanish-speaking countries. Yes, there are some countries that do have more, but for the most part, they're a minority. Almost probably like equivalent to the U.S. Like the U.S., they're like 12 to 13%. I think the only places where they are probably more than that is probably going to be like Brazil, the Dominican Republic, por los haitianos, but there's also some genuinely, I won't call them BLK, genuinely dark-skinned Dominicans, morenos, with like majority African ancestry. Maybe Colombia, but yeah. But oh, you said Spanish-speaking. Brazil's Portuguese, but I'm thinking Latino in general. Jay, especially the light-skinned looking people, they be so surprised when they have more Euro ancestry. Yeah, I remember one video, there was this girl, she was literally like 55, 45, something like that. And she was like, what? Like her world was just rocked. It's so funny. Oh man. Latto Priest says that just means anyone lighter skinned usually. Jorge says that's high yellow. Latto Priest says she wants acceptance from the Bantus. Yeah. Jay, what do you think about the US race system? I don't really like it. I don't like it at all. The US kind of sucks when it comes to race. But, you know, that's why we're here, trying to fix these problems, trying to correct these incoherent views on race and combat racism too. Latto Priest says, that's what I mean. Anyone who's high yellow rather they're Latto or Griff. Yeah. Gerard, she was Dominican. Yes. Latto Priest says they just call us all red bone or light skin. Yeah, I've been called light skin, red bone. You know, obviously like mixed biracial and stuff like that. I've had people, you know, try to guess my mix and get it completely wrong, which is a funny thing. You know, whenever they say you are how society perceives you, but then there's a lot of Lattos who get perceived as like Middle Eastern, as like Arabs, or they get perceived as like being, you know, some type of mestizo. they get perceived as being like Asian or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, if society perceives me that way, you know, let's say you're a Latto, but you have kind of an Arab kind of look to you, and people think you're Arab. By the logic of a lot of these people, you are now Arab. You are 100% now Arab because you're how society perceives you. Yeah, race is how you're perceived, and it's just ridiculous. It's not logical whatsoever. Gerard says, I know what video. Hey, what's up, Wes? MGM people being surprised that they're genetically Latto is always hilarious. Dude, it's so much. I'm pretty sure y'all seen that video of this girl, you know, definitely a Lada. And she's she's like complaining that people are saying she's not BLK. And she's like, y'all think I'm not BLK? Look at my parents. They're both BLK. And then she like pans over to her parents and they're both also Lattos. Oh my God, so clueless. So freaking clueless. Shout out to Stacy Dash. Baby says, what would you change? What would I change about the system? First of all, I would take the government out of it. I would say the census needs to not have any race question whatsoever. There needs to be no considerations of race and anything regarding the government. That would probably be the first thing. And then I would, I don't know if you can like actually do this, but I would try to provoke like more conversations, open conversations about race. And because right now it's just, everybody has basically like the same view on race here in the US. Or I should say the same set of views. Race is a phenotype. Race is a skin color. Race is a social construct. Race is how you're perceived. All these things that are like kind of incompatible with each other, but everybody believes all those things at the same time. There's only one race, the human race. A lot of those things I would change. Someone says, greatest thing to ever happen. Wes says, they really think that their ancestors got off their boats looking like Steph Curry. I know, right? Steph Curry literally has white skin. Like what, hazel green eyes, light brown hair. Freaking like Kunta Kinte was like shooting 3-pointers from the freaking boat or something. Alphonse says, my ancestors were Vikings, ain't gonna make me feel bad about that. Well, all right. Vikings are pretty dope. Lotto Priest says, oh yeah, they're very shocked because they were taught BLK come in multiple colors. Yeah. I mean, your identity is named after one color, but you come in many colors. How does, what? I don't get that. T says, why don't we leave the past in the past and move forward as a united nation? Oh God, no. I mean, there's a lot of people in this nation I don't want to unite with. What are you talking about? And I'm willing to bet there's a lot of people that you don't want to unite with either. And also the idea that racial like awareness somehow inherently inherently implies like some kind of combative segregation, like dividing people or something. Like, no, like delineating between types of people does not mean that you have to be at each other's throat. You know, we have a delineation between I don't know, like North and South Dakota, but do you see them like battling out all the damn time or something? No, it's like, you know, over here we're South Dakota and over here we're North Dakota. Yeah. And they get along. At least I think they do. I don't know shit about the Dakotas. Farah Cesar, thank you for the follow. T says race is a social construct. No, it is not. Jay, but I'm about to open up the panel. If you want to come up on the panel and defend that position, go ahead. Jay says, do you know Tyla, the singer from South Africa? Yeah, Yeah, I made a video about her a while back. She was getting canceled by AAs because she identified herself as colored. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Very hypocritical. And basically, in the video that I had made, I said that they're trying to force her to change her identity because she's in America and not in South Africa. But if they were to go to another country and they were forced to change their identity, they would not. They would actively resist it. And, you know, why can't we just respect people's identities, you know? Oh, we love immigrants, unless they don't bow to blackness. Like, no. Jay says, I already read that part. Latto Priest says, if it's a social construct, Shaq could say he's Asian. I know, right? Shaq is a beautiful Asian man. T says, open a biology book. Bro, I have so many biology books. And I've specifically read books from geneticists and other biologists refuting race. And you know what? All their arguments were pretty fucking weak, man. Like there's one book that I would suggest. It's called Everyone is African by Daniel Fairbanks. That's like one of the top books that tries to debunk race. And it's pretty weak. Like, it just is. Like, I intended to do a book review on that because I wrote notes all the way through it. But it would be such a long video. So I don't know. It's kind of on the back burner, but yeah. Okay, let's see. Jorge says, you're spreading so much confusion and inherent. Am I now? Manda says, keep policing words like you're in HR. Manda says, BLKness is a made-up construct, right? Latto Priest, since race is a social construct, we have to agree Brad Pitt is objectively an African. Well, obviously. He is whatever he chooses to be. Manda says, rise me up host. I'm gonna bring up Latto Priest because he wanted to discuss this topic as well. And then after that, I'll open it up the panel completely. Manda says, BLKness is a term invented by Europeans. Yes, it is. Very much so. Jay says they literally try and erase her South Asian ancestry. Yeah, they basically want her to just praise and recognize only her African, or I guess her dark-skinned African side. Random question here from Homie says, thoughts on the Armenian G side? I know nothing about the Armenian G side. I know it had something to do with the Turks. Knowing the Turks' history, I wouldn't be surprised if there actually was an Armenian G side. I know there's debate about it, but yeah. Baron says, we're forked up over the cultural construct of race. It's not really a construct. T says, so what are your qualifications again, just to make sure? Okay, so now you're moving the goalpost. First it was, I need to read a biology book. And now that I've read a biology book, you're like, oh, but what are your qualifications? And you're basically saying that, oh, you can only be a scientist to have an opinion on issues of race. Well, I'll have you know, sir, there are geneticists, there are biologists who believe that race is biological. And they are biologists that you know. One of the most famous biologists that almost everybody knows actually believes race is biological. And of course, he didn't really say it until the end of his career, when he's like already like, old and no longer like in academia. Let's see. Latto Priest says, HLA markers, blood type, skeleton, hair, PCA plots. Wes says, dude, what the F are your qualifications? I know, right? T says, bruh, you can't be serious. Okay. Since it's a social construct, don't get offended by what I just said. Yeah. Barron says race is only phenotypical expression of underlying genetic structure. No, it is not. That is an archaic view. That is an incoherent view of race. I don't know why you're trying to promote that view of race. Race is a genetically distinct group of people. That is far more coherent than what you just said. Okay, someone T6 says Mayan sacrifices, and then are those greater than symbols? And then Christianity. I don't know what that means. Latto Priest says, yes, certain blood types are more common amongst different demographics. Jay says, I think one of the reasons Americans think all Dominicans are BLK is because they go to resorts in DR and don't realize half of those workers are Haitians. That, but also just the one drop rule. Like, you don't even have to, be a dark-skinned Dominican. You could literally, I can't think of a super light-skinned Dominican at the moment. Okay, Prince Royce. You could look like freaking Prince Royce, and they'll be like, man, he black. Okay? Obviously, like Romeo Santos, they're going to say that. But I don't know. Let's see. Latto Priest says, if race isn't real, why does 23andMe make money? Money Ali says, blood type is important. T says, yes, and they probably make up 0.01% of the scientific community. Okay. So basically you're, what is it, like a democracy or something, like the majority? There was a time when the majority of biologists believed that a certain demographic of people with dark skin were inferior. And according to your logic, they were correct because they had the credentials, because they were the majority. As if experts cannot be wrong. Experts can't be influenced by politics or social policy. None of that. I'm actually probably going to be talking about politics, or not politics, but the concept of experts later on. Let's see. They want to. Latto Priest says they want to absorb everything that isn't them. Yeah. T says, I'm sure there are a few physicists that disagree. Okay, I don't know what's going on. All right, Latto Priest. Let me bring you up here. Let's see. Invitar. ¿Dónde estás? There you are.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing much. Yeah, don't even pay attention. Like when people say race is a social construct, and especially that guy, and they keep arguing it, especially when that's not even the topic. That just means that they're trying to derail the conversation. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's not that one guy that came in doing that shit.
Yeah, that's true. There are people that have that motive, but I love the topic of race. So anytime I have to, anytime I love being challenged on the issue of race, because I want to make sure that I'm correct about this. And so I like having these conversations. And like I said, I'm not spending too much time on him, but I did I was able to respond to a lot of his BS. Basically, his the opinion he got from ChatGPT.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, on this racial imperialism topic, you actually came up with a decent term for that, racial imperialism. I remember that I was talking to you in the inbox. We talked about basically like these psychological warfare tactics that are basically being used to absorb us, really.
Yeah, and you were talking about a few specific like examples, a few tactics that they use. So go ahead and explain some of those.
Yeah, I was saying that basically first it starts with the women. Like they start getting the women to claim their tribe, and absorbing them as a BOK really. And then it moves on to the men to basically shaming of the men for who they date or how they act or whatever really. It's basically them just holding domain over us really, is what it comes down to for the most part.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's racial imperialism, and they 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 it's kind of like it's not even like a secret or anything. Like it's kind of like obvious. Like you kind of see it around you. Even like me, someone like me, I didn't really like grow up around BLK people, but I can, yeah, I can see it. Like, you know, the second you get online and you see certain things, you see these
Dude,
tactics that they
even in
use.
like real life, dude, like if you identify as a mulatto, right? Like you say, like you're mulatto, and you know, what I mean, they're BOK. You know, what I mean, they might actually not, you know, they might not respond to it. I mean, that happened to me before, really, where I don't know. I just felt like this dude really like got upset when I just didn't want to identify as a BOK. But it's like, well, wait, we can identify as whatever we want to. So why is that an issue? You know? But they don't care. Like they don't really see it that way because they want to hold on to us because you know lighter skinned and mulatto people have been so influential in the BOK American culture. Really.
Yeah, and it's, you know, their power over Lottos is one of the only instances where they actually kind of have some power, you know, like especially like in their daily
I
lives.
know that's the
Like
only.
if you're like a regular BLK person, like in your day, you're not a politician or anything like that, or some, you know, social worker, organizer or something. Like your source of power is gonna come from basically like lording over all the light skins and the like
Right, that's
Lottos
the
in your
only
community.
power that they have. Really, it's just lording over us. Really, like social. That's the only power that they have. They don't have any economic power. They don't have any political power. This is why, if you really like pay attention to the mixed race pages, who do they mostly get attacked by? BLK people, 90% of the freaking time.
I think regarding the subject on racial imperialism, my final thoughts will be yes, we need to call it out whenever we see it, no matter who it's coming from, whether they're trying to one drop us or trying to gaslight us or trying to incorporate us into their system. And they're always, you know, they have different ways of doing this. Some people are more aggressive about it, more combative. Some are more friendly about it. Like they'll say, "Hey, we welcome you into the community. We want you to be a part of us. You're our brother. You're invited to the cookout." And you kind of just still gotta hold your ground. Yeah, you gotta stand your ground and assert your identity. And don't be afraid about doing it. I'm not saying you gotta be a dick. You gotta be an a-hole to everybody, but you know, just stand firm. So thank you, everybody. That's going to be it for me. This live is every Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on TikTok. Follow me on YouTube at Papa Mulaton. That's where I put my long form content. I will catch y'all later.